think folks can see this. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for joining us on this Veterans Day for the Moving Towards Beauty Justice Conversations for Change conference. We really been working diligently on this conference for a while and really trying to think strategically around beauty justice. How do we mobilize around some of the research pieces, the policy pieces, the legislative pieces, thinking about retailers, consumers, but really at the heart of it, thinking about the disproportionate gap that women of color face when we think about the impacts of toxic beauty products, personal care products, and other products that can harm us in our bodies. I wanted to take just a moment to talk a little bit about goals for the conference. We'll talk a little bit about the outline for the conference as well, and the breakout sessions and how things will work. There we go. So as far as conference goals, this conference is hosted by Columbia Center for Children's Environmental Health, with Mailman School of Public Health, hosted by We Act for Environmental Justice and the Center for Environmental Health in Northern Manhattan with Columbia University as well. It really, the conference stems from We Act's Beauty Inside Out campaign, which focuses on making sure that we're raising awareness and getting involved in actions and policies that will change beauty injustices and really shape how women of color are impacted by toxic products. The goals today are to really learn about harmful beauty products, particularly those that greatly affect women of color, brainstorm on how to enact change at the personal, communal, and national levels. We really want this to be a space where we're having conversations, and it's not just experts sort of talking at you, but really involving you as well in thinking strategically about how to enact changes, what will work, what won't work, and thinking about how to act now, how to demand those safer products for all, how to implement these changes in a really meaningful way, right? And getting outside of some of the theories of how we can improve on beauty injustices. And again, I want to thank all of the folks who have worked diligently to plan this conference, who have invested their time and energy, and very many of them you will see in your breakout sessions as they've thought critically about the content that we're going to discuss today. To talk a little bit about how this conference will go, we are going to first have an introduction of the goals once again, and we'll have a presentation by myself and Dr. Ami Zoda from the George Washington University Millikan School of Public Health around our Beauty Inside Out campaign survey results that focuses on adults in Northern Manhattan. After we have our introduction, we'll have our first block of breakout sessions. You all, the audience, will have the option on your screen to choose between the first 4 sessions in the first block. So session 1, the Crown Act, Anti-Hair Discrimination Law. Session 2, Children's Makeup and Beauty Products. What do we know? Session 3, how does science tell us? What does science tell us? Navigating the windows of susceptibility and intervention studies, and session number 4, which is who is minding the store, which focuses on retailers and retailer advocacy. These breakout sessions will consist of conversations with experts, will consist of thinking about these topics in relationship to community. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear you participate and engage in thinking about the calls to action and thinking critically about these topics. We really want to hear from you on direct advocacy work, research, policy, and change. Those are some key areas that we're focusing on in this work. And I believe that someone in the chat is going to drop a link with more information on each session. You can also check back to the Padlet link for more information. After this first block of sessions, then we'll get through sessions 5, 6, and 7. Session 5, hair products and the context of colorism, the implications of darker skin. Session 6, which is a DIY Columbia Center for Children's Environmental Health Youth Council and Leave It Better Foundation. That session is going to be really exciting. And session 7, how to be an advocate, changing the face of the Black beauty industry. And so after we have that second session, we're going to hop into a short 5-minute break, and then we'll have some debriefing led by our session leaders, a sort of summary of conversations. We know that everyone can't be in all of the sessions at one time, so we hope that it'll be really helpful to have more context about what those conversations were like. And at the end, we'll stay in the main room together, listen to these conversations. We'll have artist Kelly Kingman from Kingman Inked, who will be drawing a live mural sketch note of some of the summaries, right? Sometimes it's a little better and easier to comprehend some of the topics and through all of the talking to have a visual there. And we would love for you to stay till the end to hear her amazing work on the screen live. We ask that you keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking. I'm sure that we're in a year and a half of Zoom land, so we all sort of know, but just a reminder. And to be respectful of anyone and their input, any type of discrimination will not be tolerated. All right, so how the breakout sessions will work, we'll have, again, 2 blocks of breakout sessions. You will have a choice on your screen to join the breakout session that you are interested in. You'll click on join a room, and whatever room that you have chosen will be the room that you're in. If you have any trouble, or if you get kicked back out, we have a couple of folks who are going to stay in the main room. He will be making sure to put you back where you're supposed to go. So if you get kicked out of a session or you drop off the call, no worries. All the sessions will be recorded and shared after the conference, and you'll have an opportunity to watch and hear a little bit more about these sessions afterwards, if you're split between whatever choice that you would like to work on. We also wanted to do a land acknowledgement, thinking about our Indigenous communities and acknowledge that our gatherings, wherever we may be, take place on a land with rich cultural and national political history that long predates colonization by Europeans. We want to acknowledge that wherever you are, wherever you're gathering, that we all gather with honor and gratitude for the land itself, and that this commits us to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land that we inhabit, but also better educators and understanders of these histories and how they impact this work. I will share at some point I think Carolina maybe has already shared it. There's a map in the chat if you want to look up what Indigenous land you are on. I think that's a really great thing to know and understand, considering that we're all in different places. We are going to go ahead and move on for the sake of time. Again, interested in what you all are going to get into. I'm going to ask Dr. Amizota to share her screen so that we can hop into some of our preliminary results from our Beauty Inside Out survey. Thank you.
Do you see the full screen? Full screen for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Great. All right, so we're going to share a little bit about our preliminary results for our Beauty Inside Out survey. We want to give a huge shout out to Dr. Larai Edwards, who has been working diligently on these slides and getting this information together. And we're really grateful for her work. So I'm just going to start a little bit about to give some background on the Beauty Inside Out work and sort of what we've been doing and working on. And then Dr. Zota is going to hop in and tell us a little bit more about the data. Okay, so thinking at a broader level about the environmental injustice of beauty, thinking about some of these larger pieces, white supremacy, patriarchy and colonization, right? Thinking about these really huge systems that shape how we think about race, how we respond to race, gender, sexuality, class, right? All of these things. Thinking about how these concepts can be internalized, can shape our beauty norms, right? Specifically thinking about shaping them into these Eurocentric standards, right? And these Eurocentric standards really impact what products we use. And the products that we use may be leaning towards getting us towards those standards, whether that's lighter skin, straighter hair, any of these things that are considered those Eurocentric features. That also means that those products have harmful chemicals in them, right? Can have harmful chemicals in them. And that the drive to want to have straight hair, the want to have fair skin, to have some sort of social advantage because it serves white supremacy, patriarchy, colonialism, all of these things, right? Use of these products and these exposures can lead to health impacts, right? Negative health impacts, especially when we think about folks who aren't centered in those beauty standards, right? Folks who may have darker skin, right? Folks who have hair textures that aren't straight, right? All of these things are really intersectional. Next slide. All right, so as far as our survey, we launched a survey with WEACT, Yale University School of Public Health, and George Washington University School of Public Health to think more critically about skin lightening products and hair straighteners, right? Chemical straighteners. In our survey, we administered it in Northern Manhattan in the fall and spring of 2020. It had 92 questions on it. Our target audience focusing on women and non-binary, femme-identifying folks of color. Really wanted to think about use and perceptions of and attitudes around product use. We had 349 surveys received and this final population of 296 folks. And thinking about why Northern Manhattan, our work in Northern Manhattan as a whole, from the WEAC perspective, really shapes around us being a community of color, right? Us having so many folks who are covered on this map on the right here, who are Black or African American, Dominican, Puerto Rican, who identify as Latinx, right? Mexican, of Asian descent. All of these folks are focused in Northern Manhattan. We have seen historically a lot of the impacts of that communities of color have faced when it comes to injustices at the local, state, and the federal level. And Northern Manhattan really is a hub for not only these injustices that are outside of beauty justice, but also thinking about what these impacts are in when we consider beauty justice, when we consider having a lot of hair salons, nail salons, beauty product stores, all of these things that are considered important when we're thinking about beauty justice. Next slide.
Okay.
I think it's you.
Okay, is it okay? So, so now I'm going to dive into the data. Taylor, thank you for that kind of intro into how the partnership formed, why we, why we're all here, why racial, ethnic, and other disparities in beauty product use and chemical exposures is an EJ issue. So, so just a little bit about our study population highlights. So we surveyed adult women and non-binary, genderqueer, and gender non-conforming femme-identified individuals. So you could see they're between the ages of 25 and 44. About roughly half of our population identified as African descent, but we also had a sizable Asian or Asian American population, another population that is incredibly understudied when it comes to these issues, and roughly half identified as Hispanic or Latinx. 75%, roughly 78% were completed in English. The other language was Spanish, and roughly half were born in US or US territory born, with a sizable population born in Puerto Rico, but other countries, immigrants were also present, and the Dominican Republic, of those who said they were born in other countries, was the most common country. And about 50% had a college degree. So the first big category of products that we looked at were chemical hair straighteners. And the reason we targeted these is because some of the chemical hair straighteners, right, they have a whole range of a lot of chemicals that can hijack your hormones, may also contribute to asthma and allergies. We know that products targeted to people, women and children of color tend to have higher levels of these chemicals. And these products have been associated with health problems, including increased risk of breast cancer, uterine fibroids. And so, we know that they may contribute to health problems. So here we're talking about chemical processing treatments that are used to transform curly, wavy, or coily hair. And so these treatments can occur both at home or in salons. So first we just asked, how participants wore their hair. And, you can see here that over half of the population that we surveyed wore their hair as natural. So first we asked about lifetime use. So we asked both about lifetime use and then use in the past year. So here's lifetime use. And out of the, roughly 300 participants, about half have used chemical straighteners in their lifetime. And the use was particularly high among those of African descent. So you can see about 54% had used them in their lifetime. Use of chemical straighteners is high among specific groups. Something to note here that people can and did identify often with more than one racial ethnic group. So you can see here that use was pretty consistent kind of across African Americans or Black community, African and Afro-Caribbean. Asians were the other group where we had, kind of data on within group comparisons. And even though this group is small, you can see some variation. So we asked about the different types of products used, and relaxers were the most common product used. And let's see here. And Black or African Americans use significantly more relaxers than those that identify as Hispanic or Latinx. And participants that identify as Hispanic or Latinx use significantly more salon keratin treatments. And so I think here is also another place where we're adding, we're helping to address data gaps, because often, we don't often study populations in Northern Manhattan, but also, kind of really getting into the types of products used, right? And you can see there are variations. And in addition to asking about what they used, we also asked about perceptions and beauty norms, right? Because to address this problem, we both have to kind of fix regulations around what's allowed in these products, but we have to address these Eurocentric beauty norms that, is impacting all of us. And so we asked both the participants what they think, but also what they think others think about straight hair. And generally, our participants thought that others found there to be perceived social and economic benefits of straight hair, especially that straight hair makes women look more beautiful and also makes women look more professional. And here, I think we're really getting into kind of workplace norms around, how women should show up to work, what kind of hairstyles are allowed. And we're going to unpack all of this more in these different sessions. We asked about, their concern about ingredients in chemical straighteners. And you can see that about 75% of our population showed some concern, ranging from slightly concerned to very concerned. And we found that 1/3 of participants make their own beauty products. So, that's a good amount. So these were the top hair care products that participants made. So 40% made hair mask, conditioner, hair oils, and shampoo. So there is already seems to be this movement towards reclaiming health and wellness and DIY. And I think that's gonna, we're gonna touch upon that, especially in the DIY youth session. The other group of products that we looked at were skin lighteners. So these are products used to lighten the skin or provide an even skin color by reducing melanin in the skin. These are particularly notorious because they can contain mercury. Mercury can cause cancer if it's at high enough levels. Exposure during the reproductive period can impact the health of the unborn baby. So we started off by just even asking where participants apply these skin lighteners. And so, kind of treatment for dark spots in the face were the most common regions. Here we saw that skin lightener use is common among participants of Asian descent. So even though our sample size is kind of small, we surveyed about 30 Asian or Asian Americans. About half reported using skin lighteners, and so that was about the highest among racial ethnic groups. But it was, we also saw about a third of Hispanic or Latinx, and as well as American Indian or Alaskan Natives and Pacific Islanders. So these products are being used by, really every racial ethnic group. And as we said, skin lightener use is high among specific Asian groups. So you can see here that 100% of the East Asian women we surveyed reported using skin lighteners. And use was also high among South Asian communities. We also, just to kind of compare the data with what we showed you before, here's the data among our participants of African descent. And you could see that the use is highest for African and Afro-Caribbean or Afro-Latina. We asked about the types of products used, and creams are the most commonly used skin lighteners. But this also varied by country of origin. So here I want to kind of focus your attention on the orange bars, which reflect usage by those born in Puerto Rico. And you can see participants born in Puerto Rico use a greater diversity of skin lightener types. And I think what this is showing is there, are kind of complex interactions between how people identify in terms of race, ethnicity, as well as culture and geographic region. And, I think our conversations so far have kind of been really simplified and are kind of like really missing a lot of this rich texture and diversity in beauty norms and beauty practices. We also found that participants believe there are perceived social and economic benefits of light skin, especially that light skin makes women look more beautiful and makes women look more professional. We saw less concern about the ingredients in skin lighteners. So you can see here the light blue bar. I would say about 30% were not, 30 to 40% were not concerned at all. So that's a little bit, this pie graph looks a little bit different than the chemicals in the hair straightener. So perhaps there's less awareness about some of the toxic ingredients in skin lighteners. And a third of the participants made their own beauty products. So we did see that also women and other femme identifying participants are making face products and lotions as well. So now I'm going to pass it over to Taylor to kind of conclude with some key messages.
Thank you so much. Thinking about a couple of key messages, I think the biggest one for us in Northern Manhattan, right, is really thinking about skin lighteners and chemical straighteners and how heavily prevalent they are in our community, which consists primarily of women or femme identifying folks of color. Thinking about all of these chemicals and products that are linked to health problems, and something that we should definitely think about and consider, specifically in communities like Northern Manhattan. But also thinking about intervention and action, right? Thinking about those that we can implement that understand the social cultural influences, and prioritizing the Eurocentric beauty standards, right? Really thinking at the top of that beauty injustice model that we showed at the beginning, as a place to start when we're thinking about actually making changes in beauty justice. Some next steps to think about as far as this work and the broader work is really thinking about legislation, policy, and advocacy. Advocating at the local, state, and federal levels for toxic products regulation is key. My colleague Sophia is going to drop in information on a couple of bills that we are thinking about and working on at the federal and state levels as well. More information on that to come. Also thinking about retail advocacy, thinking about the role that retailers have in creating products and thinking about marketing, right? Targeting some of those Eurocentric standards to push products that they know are harmful, but also thinking about research as well, right? This is only a tiny piece of information that sort of gives us a peek into beauty justice, and we can only get them with more research that focuses on product testing, consumer experiences, research dissemination, and education. And for this work, we're really grateful to have so many great partners. We really want to acknowledge the GW Millikan School of Public Health research team, the WEAC team who's been working on this as well, the Yale team who's been really useful and great leaders in our survey, and also our funders. We're grateful to have them to be able to have capacity to do this work.